This is Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall. CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie over at the Montreal Gazette. Jim, I want to start off by talking about this open letter written by 500 people within Quebec's medical community, 30 groups of organizations involved in this as well, all saying, hey, how did we not see this truck coming right towards us in Bill 96 that's apparently going to make life a whole lot more difficult and potentially dangerous for people working in the healthcare sector?
Well, I mean, this is a crazy story, first of all, because we're talking about an organization that is basically representing groups and health professionals across the province. We're not talking about the usual suspects, unless you want to say that places like Abitibi-Témiscamingue are hotbeds for angry phones. What I find most interesting about this letter to the government, which does not mince words, it is saying if this law goes through as is, people's lives will be placed in danger because it should be a fundamental right for a person seeking medical care to understand what is going on to them and to be able to, for their physicians to communicate with them properly to understand what's going on. It says that Bill 96, basically concocted by a bunch of out-of-touch bureaucrats completely unfamiliar with how the healthcare system works. But it's the lead, actually, that people should pay attention to, because this group, which I say, they've been around for a while, medical professionals, yes, unions, yes, community groups. They begin their letter by stating that, Monsieur Legault, your office, the office of Monsieur Dubé, the health minister, the office of Monsieur Jean Barrette, the justice/French language minister, have refused to even listen to us, which is why we're writing this open letter. I find it fascinating that we can have this conversation about this government's, ongoing crusade to make moves that it claims are protecting the French language. At the same time, the health system is once again imploding because of how we responded or didn't respond to COVID-19. The world turned upside down, you betcha. And I can guarantee you that Francois Legault will just say his priority is to protect the French language, even though les bons Québécois, les bons francophones, for all I know, les bons caquistes who happen to work in the health network are saying you are making more than just a political mistake. You're making a dangerous mistake. You are placing people's lives in jeopardy with this law. And, will it change? Will it be amended? I'm not entirely sure at this point. Even Francois Legault will dare touch this big, shuffling, staggering Frankenstein's monster that he alone created just to appease a clutch of columnists over at Québécois.
Where the heck is the opposition in all of this? Why are we...
Well, right now, as we speak, guys, the opposition, all of them, are in the National Assembly arguing in favor of a public inquiry into the government's response, or perhaps lack of it, to the heroin disaster at the long-term care center in Dorval. Where do they stand? I haven't seen them piping up. I haven't heard a word about what's being contained in this letter coming from the opposition. Then again, listen, I also, this is not, politics don't happen in a vacuum. I don't know if they've been asked about this letter by journalists. Maybe that's when they'll respond. But the fact is, the letter was published, indeed, in the Journal de Montréal. So clearly, Québécois, and presumably its columnists, know about this. Maybe it'll be interesting to see if they try and stomp all over this tomorrow, or perhaps, try to weasel their way out of how the Nation, the priorities of the Nation, even if some people's lives are endangered, are worth it. Because I tell you, this letter is very plainly and very damningly written, and I would urge anyone who gets their hands on or take a look at it to look at it, because honestly, it's a perfect example of what's happening right here and right now in Quebec, where you've got an out-to-lunch government catering to a sliver of opinion about, the French language in Quebec. Meanwhile, Rome and everything around it is on fire.
By the way, for people who may have missed the interview, we talked to Dick Menzies, who's one of the signatories to this letter. He is a doctor. You can hear that interview on our page at cjd800.com. And when Natasha and I both reacted the same way is, how is no one in government even said anything about this. Never mind the CAC. Where's the Liberal health critic, Moncef Daraji? So we're going to try to have him on the show tomorrow to try to understand how this has managed to slip under the radar. So,
well, the thing is, it is Bill 96. First of all, it's just this big, cumbersome, article riddled law, which is being put up as an example as to how true blue, how linguistically pure this government intends to be. I mean, think about it for a second. Refusing a physician who could do so or to speak to a newly arrived patient, unfamiliar with how the health system works, and indeed perhaps quite terrified over their condition, not even being allowed to call on a translator.
It's nuts.
To protect what exactly? What element of our identity, other than perhaps a very, very frightening streak of inhumanity, is being protected by an article like that?
Well,
so yeah, I mean, if I can say these things, maybe the people who got elected as opposition members could perhaps find the words to say the same thing as well.
And is it safe to assume that a human rights lawyer is going to be, on board pretty soon?
I think, given some of the other fun details of this law, you will have a barge full of lawyers going after this law, not just in terms of what it's doing or the completely ignorant and uninformed forays it's making into healthcare, but also in all the ridiculous powers it will be giving these inspectors, I guess, from the OQLF, to basically, throw 3 centuries of judicial tradition out the window and walk in and search without a warrant. This is completely preposterous. But listen, in the end, it's up to people in my line of work to shine a spotlight on this and do it regularly. In fact, and I'll take the blame here too, up until I saw this letter, I didn't know just what the extent of Bill 96's reach into fundamental health care was.
I'm starting to wonder whenever I hear this, because we know there are, 202 amendments in this bill. Maybe that was the idea, right? Baffle them with, what I'm saying here.
Yes, I know. You are 1,000% correct. This is exactly what it is. And don't forget, I hate to say it, once again, people in my line of work, especially in this day and age, our attention span is only slightly longer than that of the average news consumer.
Yeah.
And don't forget, 9 times out of 10, somebody who's been called upon to cover Bill 96 on any given day maybe also has 2 or 3 other assignments to deal with before the day is done.
Fair enough. Look, real quick, Jim, got about a minute here. So the minister, our public health director today, Dr. Boileau, saying, yeah, look, Easter, Passover, Ramadan, whatever, you're kind of on your own here. What'd you think?
I've been on my own for the past 2 years, buddy. And I would, anyone in the sound of my voice right now, don't take any chances. This is how you learn, apparently, to live with COVID-19 in Quebec in 2022. You basically put up with all the same threats that you encountered in the previous 2 years, except now the government is not taking any measures to protect you more than your mask and your own common sense. Stay low, have a good Easter, Passover, you name it. But in the end, it's between you, your mask, and your common sense, because you're going to get zero help from this guy.
James MENNIE, the Montreal Gazette. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, man.